Hello and welcome to the Kongversation. I'm Hyle Russell.
And I'm Jeff Onan.
Merry Christmas, Jeff. Happy holidays.
Yeah, well, okay. That's not what I expect you to say to me.
I know, it feels awful, doesn't it? No, I'm wishing you, magical, Christmas time, because we're going to be discussing Sea of Thieves Season 5 today, which was ostensibly the December holiday update for the winter holidays. And I know what some of you are thinking. If you don't actually play Sea of Thieves, you're like, wow, the Kongversation, you were really behind in, your episodes that you're just getting around to discussing what went on at the Christmas time in Sea of Thieves. And to that I say, no, actually, Sea of Thieves Season 5 launched that time, and it had all of these relevant, like cosmetics and tie-ins and holiday events, but it's actually wrapping up this week. So we are not behind. In fact, we are ahead. We are ahead of our normal schedule here. It's just a bit weird to sit down and discuss this when I do heavily associate this with the winter holidays. I mean, my pirate on the key art for this episode on YouTube and SoundCloud is dressed like a nutcracker. And Pepito Kong, my monkey sidekick, is also dressed like an asshole. So I'm like, oh, okay, I guess we're going to have to be dipping back into those late December vibes when we put all that to bed in our lives a long time ago. I say that, but I still have Christmas decorations up because I just can't be bothered to take them down.
Well, it's nice, too, because if you keep the decorations out a little longer, then, say, for example, you have a nut that needs cracking, and you don't have to go up into your attic to find your Christmas nutcracker because you have one handy for cracking nuts. Which I'm kind of surprised that those are so seasonal, since I would like to have a delicious nut any time of year.
It was great to have my nutcrackers on display until about 2 weeks ago, and now it just looks like I'm one of those cranks who are trying to show solidarity with Russia. So, I don't know. I should have thought that through when I decided to leave everything up until March, but here we are. Anyway, before we get started, really quick, just wanted to give two quick plugs. We got Twitch. We got DK Vine on Twitch. DKVine.com/Twitch or Twitch.tv/DKVine. So if you want to see what we're going to discuss on the next Sea of Thieves episode, Sea of Thieves Season 6, these quarterly updates we give, you could just watch us have these adventures, these experiences live on our Twitch channel every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. GMT. We got DK Vine's Stream of Thieves on our Twitch channel. We go on roughly 3 to 6 hour adventures every Sunday if the servers let us, which we'll get into. But that's where we really experience all this in real time, more or less. And Jeff, you're usually on those. Cameron's usually on those. And we usually have a rotating fourth crew member from the staff or the community. So it's a good time. You can check it out. You can see the magic as it unfolds on our Twitch channel.
Yeah, you can watch me gradually get crankier and crankier as the Sunday afternoon drags on.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, wow, Jeff's not having a good time. It's getting awkward now. And then, we try to break the tension by telling jokes, and then the jokes get old around hour 4, and we all just want to die a little bit on Sunday.
Oh yeah, you definitely need to show up at the start of a stream because by 2 hours in, the jokes are no longer comprehensible.
No,
you need to watch them evolve in real time.
Yes, because usually there's a theme, and it's like Pee-wee.
Every joke we tell is just a turducken of jokes. It's just nonsense.
It's like watching Pee-wee's Playhouse, which I know you like to do, Jeff. You have to watch from the beginning so you know what the secret word is, or else you don't know when to scream.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I don't want to look like some kind of asshole not screaming at the secret word on Pee-wee's Playhouse. So tune in to Stream of Thieves on Sundays.
Yeah. And then if you're intrigued by what you see and you want to keep up with Sea of Thieves news as it happens, then you point your browsers or your mobile browsers or whatever you point things to these days to Golden Sands blog post. Jeff, what is Golden Sands blog post?
Thanks for asking. Yeah, so all right, let's scrap the whole thing. This is Golden Sands blog post is a blog about Sea of Thieves. I run it with my friend Dre, and
our friend Dre. You can't just claim Dre.
I found Dre in the gutter and brought them into this community, and I can put them back where I found them. You've thrown me off. We talk about Sea of Thieves in that blog. If you need to keep up with what's going on, if you want to find guides to the latest content, how do I complete the latest challenges, what's time limited, when are there Twitch drops, what's going on, what is Sea of Thieves, all of that and less can be answered on our blog, which you can find at medium.com/golden-sands-blog post, or there's a DK Vine hyperlink, I think, as well.
DKVine.com/Golden Sands blog post. No.
Also Twitter.
No hyphens. Yeah.
Twitter's easier too. It's at Golden Sands blog. You find it on Twitter, and you can get linked to the blog, and you can read my tweets. I tweet there.
There's also just a link on DK Vine. If you go to dkvine.com and then under friends, it's one of our friends.
If you were to use any kind of search engine software like Google and just type in Golden Sands blog post, it'd probably come up that way.
I like how this has just evolved into us trying to explain the internet to our grandparents.
Well, if they don't know the internet, they probably haven't made it as far as listening to this episode. So,
no, if this was somebody's introduction to the internet, I don't know how it happened, but I mean, if they got this far, I think they should be able to find Golden Sands blog post without us. But and
if you want to view Golden Sands blog post on TikTok, you can't. So don't try TikTok.
Yeah.
But all those other ones are a yes.
Every time I'm like, well, maybe DK Vine should, stake a claim on TikTok. And then I'm just like, I'm too tired. I can't.
But if DK Vine didn't get onto Vine when Vine was around, then we're definitely not going to get onto TikTok.
No, we drove Vine out of business. We were like, there can only be one. And
people kept going to their favorite search engines and trying to find Vine. But they kept getting sent to DK Vine and then being drove crazy.
Yeah, when I went to the UK to visit Rare the other year, like half a decade ago at this point, the driver who picked me up at the airport, they had the little placard that said like DK Vine, and he asked me when I met up with him. He was like, "So your site, is that like a Vine thing?" And I was like, "No, it's a Donkey Kong thing." And then he was like, "I'm gonna go get a coffee." And I was like, "All right." So
that's when the driver puts up that little window in between the front and back and just closes that thing.
Joke's on him, because I totally vomited in his little town car there. So
that's true. I've heard this story. You did do that.
Speaking of Steve from off of Rare Gamer, I have a couple interesting bits I need to bring up before we get into the Sea of Thieves Season 5 discussion pertaining to the previous episode of the Kongversation, where I discussed Saber Wolf for the Game Boy Advance with our friend Dustin. So you see, I didn't claim Dustin there. I said
I claim Dustin. That's another one of mine.
Greedy little gobbler here. So I have a small correction I need to make, because this has been haunting me for a week. So I said that the golem, the creature from Jewish folklore, and Gollum, the withered, ring-loving mutant from off of Lord of the Rings, were spelled the same. And of course, they're not spelled the same. And I realized that pretty much as soon as I said it, but then the conversation just took us away from it, and I couldn't get back to it. So, apologies. I'm not an idiot. I know the difference between golems, and Gollum. And I just want to apologize to the estate of J.R.R. Tolkien and any offended rabbis who might have been listening. I don't know who I might have offended with that or just pissed off. And I just want to say I am sorry. All around apologies. I do know the difference. Also, interesting bit of continuity that I want to bring up here, because this I didn't know, Dustin didn't know, but it came up. We were discussing where Saberwolf GBA took place in regards to the Rare Archipelago, and we had our theories, and we broke it down in relation to like Hailfire Peaks, where Saberman is in Banjo-Tooie, and then he's still hanging around the Isle of Hags and Banjo Pilot. So I suggested, we don't have a name for this landmass that the game takes place in, but since all of the world names are based on games made by Ultimate Play the Game, the predecessor to Rare, I said maybe we call it Ultimate Island. And then Steve from Off a Rare Gamer sent me a Twitter DM. He slid right in there, as he's wont to do, and he said, actually, Hyle, this has already been explained by Tim Stamper from Off of Rare, one of the co-founder of Rare and Ultimate Play the Game, because at the end of the Spectrum's life, they released a compilation called Ultimate Play the Game: The Collected Works. And in this bundle, they had a map drawn by Tim Stamper that established that the Saberman games and some other ones take place on this landmass called Ultimatum. And there's a map on there. You can find this at Rare Gamer, by the way. You can also find Rare Gamer under the Friends tab right next to Golden Sands blog post. But anyway, Ultimatum. Yeah.
Or a search engine.
Or a search engine. Yeah, just Twitter. But yeah, Ultimatum. So we were close, but it actually has been answered by the Stampers themselves. So very interesting. Thank you, Steve.
So if you were trying to make like a Saberwolf GBA themed rap song and you couldn't figure out what to rhyme with Channing Tatum, now you have your answer.
And also, I really hope Channing Tatum plays Saberman in the inevitable... we're going to have a Mario movie, and the rumors say we're going to have a Donkey Kong movie after that. So that will naturally lead to the Diddy Kong Racing movie, which will give us the Banjo-Kazooie movie, which will then give us the Saberwolf movie. So,
yeah, and the wolf is played by Kevin Hart.
Yeah, I mean, probably that's the way they who do the kids like these days? We'll get them in there. Do we want to cast them? No, whatever. We don't care if this is garbage.
So Hyle,
so Jeff,
I'm getting sleepy because we haven't talked about Sea of Thieves yet.
I'm sorry, but you get sleepy when we do talk about Sea of Thieves. I can't.
I'm always sleepy. I'm like a little bear.
Aw. I just pictured you as a little bear and I wanted to scratch your stomach. Sea of Thieves Season 5. So, God, this feels like we've been in Season 5 forever now. Like, I really feel like, because it launched, like, what was it, mid-December? I mean, it was close.
It launched like December, I think early, maybe like December 3rd or something.
Was it? Because I remember as we were trying to unlock the seasonally appropriate cosmetics, we were like, we really want to get through this season fast because we want to have all this stuff usable, for the holidays. Because I think it was an early Hanukkah this year, so it was basically, Christmas and Kwanzaa and then New Year. But you don't want to be running around with the snow globe lantern in early March, because you just look like an asshole again, Yeah,
I just looked it up, and so it did launch on December 2nd.
Jeez. All right. Wow.
So it has been 3 months of... So that would make it on the long side for seasons. I know that we always say that a season of Sea of Thieves is roughly 3 months.
Yeah.
But so far, none of them have actually been. This one is going to come out to be 3 months and a week or so. So it's been a long one. It's been a bit of a long one.
It has, and that's why I have all of this disconnect, because I think back, it feels like there are different eras within this season. And in a certain sense, that's true, because when the season launched, that was before we had this new kind of game plan revealed to the world, where how Sea of Thieves would be operating in 2022 and beyond. And so the tail end of this season kind of gave us our first taste of that. So it just, it's a weird season that encompasses almost two different eras of Sea of Thieves, but I will let you elaborate on that.
It's a transition. I think of this season as a transition to the next era of Sea of Thieves. And I wrote down what I think all the eras of Sea of Thieves are. Now I don't remember what they are, but I think we're in era 5 or 6 of Sea of Thieves now. And but yeah, so basically kind of season 4 was a bit of the aftermath of what happened in season 3. Of course, that was the Pirates of the Caribbean crossover, the big huge money shot moment. And season 4 was a bit of aftermath of that, with more stuff involving the sirens and stuff like that. And now season 5 is a little bit like, okay, well, we're done with that. The Pirates of the Caribbean thing happened, and now things are back to normal and ramping up to the next story we're going to tell. And so season 5, also, unlike other seasons, it didn't really have a large central new gameplay thing to kind of hang its hat on. It was all about a collection of little things, especially tools, just tools you can use in regular gameplay instead of a new kind of activity to go out and do. It's more like little things that are going to affect all activities as you go out in the world, and little ways to have fun. It
reminds me of Shrouded Spoils, back when they were introducing these new things through these kind of events, and what became like the Bilge Rat adventures, and those updates would be reflected in those tabs there. And we had Shrouded Spoils, which I think was like the 4th one, but it was mostly a lower key one. There was no big adversary or event or threat. It was just a lot of little improvements and tweaks and additions, stuff they've been wanting to add but haven't gotten around to it. Kind of all comes at once. Quality of life improvements.
Actually, so the subtitle to this season was Buried Treasures.
Yeah.
Which is another kind of title right in that same vein, Shrouded Spoils, the little things. I know that when Shrouded Spoils came out, they said a working title that they didn't go with was calling it Pieces of Great. Which I wish they would have used here, because it's little pieces of great things.
I get it. I hate it.
It's like pieces of 8. Oh yeah, you hate it.
Yeah.
That's why I love it. Yeah. So I mean, we're not going to dwell on all of these and really, break down everything. But here's some of the things, and you can kind of just stop me and elaborate when you want to talk about a specific one.
Yeah.
But some of the features they added the ability to sit down in like chairs, stools, cliff tops that are overlooking the sunset. Sit down at the edge of the dock and dangle your feet. Sit down on the rails of the ship and dangle your feet. It's a lot of feet dangling.
Yeah, and it's really pointless, but it's great for like role playing. It's great for just getting that perfect picture, like because sometimes you don't want your pirate to be standing when you're trying to snap the perfect screenshot, or you're trying to convey something in the world, in universe, without using voice chat. So it's helpful in that regard. It's an immersion thing more than anything else.
Yeah, and in the same vein, there's not just sitting down on chairs, but sleeping in beds or cots, which actually does have a little bit of a gameplay purpose, because you can replenish your health while sleeping. It's really slow, and I don't care about just like eating some banana. Like, if you really don't want to eat your fruit, then you can sleep in the bed. But chances are, if you sleep in the bed, someone's going to come up and vomit on you because you're leaving yourself pretty defenseless, and your crew are a bunch of fucking hooligans. So they're going to wait for you to wake up and then splash vomit right in your face. That's what my crew always does.
I know Cameron. Oh, that's Cameron's thing is let me get a bucket of vomit and
yeah, I think that Cameron gets upset when we get attacked, and I think it's not because we're being attacked. It's because, oh, you mean I have to dump the vomit out of my bucket and bail water?
Yeah,
I've been saving this vomit. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Cameron would have a much better time when we play these go on these adventures if they would introduce in the next quality of life improvement in Pieces of Great, they would introduce a separate vomit receptacle so you could just save it, let it
or get, like either water barrel on the ship, but it's a vomit barrel and you can just pump vomit.
And the great thing is then it could get to room temperature, which somehow makes it worse than if it's warm.
Oh. But speaking of bucketing out the hull, there are now rats in the hull. Rats that act as sort of a visual indicator that if you're taking on water, rats will start to run up the steps and flee from the bottom of the hull. And that's just kind of a nice little thing. It doesn't really do anything, but it's nice. Unless you don't like rats, then you don't want it, and you can turn that off in the menu.
Ship rats are such a large part of the iconography, the mythos of pirates and this era of nautical exploration.
Like you literally can't spell pirate without rat.
Yeah, that's true. You can look that up on Google. Anyway, rats are like something they have been wanting to add to the game since the very start. Like they've been talking about, wouldn't it be nice if, one of the little indicators is like rats running up your ship when you're taking on water. That way, if you're preoccupied and you can't hear, that you breached the hull, you'll be able to visually see the rats are coming or whatever. There are a lot of like telltale signs to say, hey, we're taking on water, but this is just another one. And, it's been something they've talked about since at least 2016. And they finally got around to it, which is great. It's great that some of these early ideas are still being worked into the game.
Yeah, it's just a little immersion thing. I like the immersion. I mean, same thing with being able to sit in the chairs or sleep in the cots. A lot of it is just furthering the immersion. So then there's dice rolling emotes. So you could use these emotes to roll dice if you wanted to, maybe use the dice to play games or whatever. And I think one of the cool things with it is that they could have just put in, 6-sided dice and just left it at that. But no, they put in like 6 different kinds of dice. So you have your D4, D6, D8, D10, and D20. Or maybe there's a D12 in there. I don't remember. But yeah, I mean, you've got all the dice you might want. You could, in theory, run an entire role-playing game campaign in Sea of Thieves, which is cool. The only requirement though is that to successfully do that, the textures have to load. Because when I first got the emote and was trying to roll the D20, which is a commendation in the game, my textures weren't loading, so I had no way of knowing what was actually happening. So I had to rely on my crew to tell me what I was rolling. Well, maybe they'll fix that, or you can just upgrade your Xbox.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Let me find an Xbox Series X. I'll easy.
Anyway, I'm skipping over one here. We'll come back to is kind of a big one, but they added cannon rowboats. So now we've had the rowboats before, and we've had the rowboats that had the harpoon gun mounted on them. Now we have rowboats with a little cannon mounted on them. Mm-hmm. So now you really truly could go like fully rogue out on the seas with a rowboat and get into combat without needing a ship at all. So I mean, maybe that's exciting for the red-crested Breagle players in the world, our good friend. I personally haven't had like almost any experience with the cannon robots. I don't think I've barely seen any.
Yeah, like I know, and this might have been the few times this season you didn't play with us, but I remember we did get the cannon rowboat a few times, and we didn't really like take it out on any mischief or mayhem. We just kept it docked on the back of the galleon, but we would then use the cannon on the back for various things, mostly just trying to get the commendations attached to, like, you know, firing at a ship, firing at a megalodon, or whatever with the cannon rowboat. So, and
it's interesting. If a sloop normally has one cannon mounted on each side, but if you mount the cannon rowboat, you in theory could have two cannons on each side, or on one of the sides, and then you have two players on a sloop. So now both players could be firing cannons at once. It just
the only problem with that is that the cannon rowboat has a slightly different arc with the cannonballs than the sloop does, which the sloop has a different one than the brigantine does, which has a different one than the galleon does. So you have to get good at it, and it jumping between the two, your ship cannons and the rowboat cannons, can take a lot of time to get used to and good at, and you have to have practice, and you know. So it's not just like this huge game-breaking addition where now everybody's going to have an advantage if they have a cannon rowboat. Not necessarily, but it can definitely be used to your advantage. It's just a neat little thing. Yeah.
It's a neat thing. So there was this one. It really is a huge quality of life thing, but I think it's kind of undersung. Is the ability to transfer resources from crate to barrel to crate. With the press of a single button.
Yeah.
The fast transfer. So this, to me, is just one of the biggest things this season, because it really makes gathering resources at the start of your session that much faster when you can grab an empty storage crate and just run around the outpost and fill every barrel. Or at the end of session when you've got some empty crates and you want to fill them up really quick and then sell them off. You're like, okay, well, I don't want to transfer 50 bananas into this thing by hand 5 at a time.
Yeah.
Like that. Instead you just press the Y button and hold it down, and you take all the bananas and it goes, it like sucks it up. It doesn't actually make that sound, but I make that sound.
That would be great if it made that sound.
Yeah.
But then you'd have huge spikes with perverts playing the game.
Yeah. We're not trying to attract that audience, but
yeah,
sometimes things like that can't be helped.
We don't want to put any more strain on the servers, I guess. I didn't start using this feature until late in the season. I think it's just one of those things where I am so ingrained in how I play and the rituals every time you get into the game, and so I didn't like start realizing, oh, hey, I can just do this now. Oh, hey, I can just do this now. And it's really helpful now to buy that empty storage crate from the merchants on the dock at every outpost, where before that would be the one thing you may not buy for them if you're buying resources. It's like, no, just get that empty storage crate and run around the outpost to all the barrels, get everything you can in there. And, you don't even know what you're grabbing from the resource barrels. You're just filling it up, and then when you get back to the ship, you can take a look at what you got. It's like Christmas morning, and so it was apropos that they added it this season. Yeah.
There was also a really fun fan favorite addition is the fireworks.
Mm-hmm.
So they had the signal flares, which are kind of in the same vein, but signal flares are like you can put a little flare in a cannon, shoot it up into the sky, and light things up with a flare. Which I really didn't realize the potential for these until late in the season, when I had 2 experiences with it. One, I actually used it to signal another crew. When we'll talk more later on in the episode about, but there was a moment in the season where some of the islands are shrouded in fog, a green ghostly fog, and so I'm at an island, and I thought I heard a cannon fire. And so I think there's another ship around, but I can't see in the fog. And so I sent up this signal flare, and then lo and behold, on the other side of the island, they shot up a signal flare, and they were like, yeah, I'm here too. And that was so cool to me. The other cool thing with them is that just visually, I didn't realize this until late in the season. but when they light up an island at night, if you send one of those white or red flares above an island and it's nighttime, they're so bright and they illuminate everything. And it is just the coolest thing. I've gotten some cool screenshots with it, but it's just like the atmosphere of just like this white light casting light down. It's really cool. But I think that the bigger fan favorite thing in this is the fireworks.
Yeah. And the fireworks, it's purely a fun thing, like a little festive thing. And I've had a few encounters now where a player's ship will be passing by, and you're like, everybody gets into defensive mode. We don't know what they're going to do. We might not want to start anything with them. Usually the way we play the game, I say we, including you in it when you're playing with us, but I know when you play by yourself or with others, you may play differently. But generally, we don't pick fights. We only go on the defensive when we get attacked. And then, then sure, all's fair in war. But so when a player's ship is passing near, like we get ready to fight if we have to, but we don't want to fight. We'd rather ally with them, whatever. And so a couple times now, a ship has passed by and they've just launched fireworks as a way to show like, hey, we're friendly, we're silly, we're just here for a good time, we mean you no harm. And then that, true, they can then, attack us, get our guards down. But I think in the times it's happened, it's been, okay, they're cool. And in fact, they were. So
it's just one of those nonverbal ways to communicate your intention. If you go all the way back to the beginning of the game, before they even had flags or the alliance system, you're passing by another crew. And what do they do to show that they're friendly? Maybe they aim all their cannons up at the sky. Or maybe they stand on the deck flashing their lanterns on and off. And these little ways that they have to non-verbally kind of say, hey, I see you, I'm not doing anything harmful.
Yeah.
Then they added the flag system, and they, you may put up the white flag, but then later they added the alliance system, and it's like, and the speaking trumpet also came later, so you're like, okay, they can get on the speaking trumpet and tell you, I'm friendly, let's form an alliance.
It feels like all the little individual ways they introduced to like convey intent in the game were never universally adopted by players. So it's good that we now have as many possibilities in there as you can think of, because I mean, the whole like let's raise our cannons all the way up to show we aren't hostile. Most people didn't do that. So
I feel like that was a short-lived thing that a lot of people were doing, and then everyone stopped doing, because it does leave you defenseless if you're trying to be. But now you've got the firework. Like if I'm passing a ship in the night and they throw up a firework into the sky that is shaped like a banana, we're friends now.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna attack you. We're cool.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what's going on. Like we're cool. So yeah, the fireworks are just a cool thing. They come in different, you could cast different shapes in the sky, or some of them are just like more traditional, what you expect of a firework, just pops and explosions and sizzles and fizzles and whiz bang woos and all that business. So they're just great fun. A lot of fun with the fireworks, and it's a good way to end your session if you've just found some fireworks along the way. You find them washed up on a beach, and then you're ready to log off for the day, but you're just like, hey, I'm just going to fire off a bunch of fireworks, and we'll just kind of go, ooh, ah.
And again, you can buy fireworks from the merchants. So if you are doing something like silly in the game, if you're making your own narrative, if you're trying to pull something off that utilizes fireworks, you can
if
just buy them
up front. If it's your birthday.
Yeah. So they give you lots of options, but you can just find them naturally through gameplay, and that's usually what we end up doing, is we just procure them as we go.
Yeah, so another thing, one of the last main things we'll talk about, they did go around and make some tweaks on specific islands in terms of the geometry, adding in some new ladders and pathways, and even interactable things like platforms and like elevators. on a couple of the biggest islands. So like Plunder Valley, Plunder Valley. Thieves Haven is really the kind of notable one because they added 2 big elevators that you can, if you're on the top of the island, Thieves Haven has that giant top side and then the interior that you can kind of sail through.
Yeah.
I call it parking in the garage. But you can load all your treasure on like a little platform and then use the pulleys to lower the treasure down to the ground. It's not... there's a little bit of utility to that. It's a little bit more convenient. But for the most part, it's just kind of fun. It's just kind of a neat thing.
My thing is Thieves Haven is confusing enough already, and now you've added all these mechanisms and booby traps in some circumstances, and now it's even more confusing for me. So I just want to stay off Thieves Haven entirely.
No, I love it because if you're on the bottom and you want to get to the top, you either have to run all the way around this snaking kind of uphill path, or you stand on the platform and just use a pulley and pull yourself to the top, and you're like, okay, now I'm up here. That's nice. And yeah, you said there's some traps now on some of these islands. You can pull a lever to set off a bunch of spikes, which would come in handy if you're kind of fighting skeletons,
or even if you're just being chased by another crew on foot. I mean, it's rare that would happen, but you never know.
It's just options, It's just options in there. And for me, what's significant about it is we've been playing on these islands for 4 years now, and we're just not used to seeing anything change. You know what I mean? Seeing something different on an island that you're used to visiting, and we'll get into that more later. It's very jarring and in some ways exciting. That's cool. But I would say the biggest new feature of the season, we'll skip any other little things. There were some other little things, but we don't need to dwell on all of it. But the big one, which is the title of the season, is Buried Treasures. We now have the ability to bury our treasures.
It's something that I, like, in the back of my mind, maybe when Sea of Thieves was first announced at E3 2015, I was like thinking that might be a feature. And then when I actually got to play the game, and as we saw the game evolve through the technical alpha and the closed beta and then launch, I just kind of forgot about. And so to have it back, to have that notion actually in the game, it's shocking to me because I'm like, oh my God, I've always wanted this, but I didn't realize, or I forgot that I always wanted this. And it's delightful. I love this feature.
Yeah, it's really fleshed out too, because you can bury treasure, and when you do so, it creates your own map. So you get a map in your inventory that you created. It can be stolen from you. Like another crew could board your ship and steal your maps, and then they can go dig up your treasure. If your ship sinks, your maps will like sink with it or like float to the surface just like treasure does, and someone can find your maps. Or then they have this new community like quest board on the outpost where you can take your map and you can just voluntarily like throw it on a bulletin board and be like, all right, I went and buried some treasures. Here it is on a bulletin board, and anyone else on the server can see that, take it down, and go dig up your treasure, and you will get rewarded for them doing so, but they will also get rewarded because they're getting the treasure. I think the first couple weeks of this was really exciting, the idea of sharing your maps, and then it kind of waned off when we realized that like no one was doing your maps after you post them.
So I had great luck the first month plus, posting maps to my board, because every time I would log into the game after, I would get a little notification that somebody found my treasures. Like all of my maps were being picked up and used. And we stream Sunday morning on the East Coast of the Americas. So, it's not as busy of a time in our little hub of the world as you would other times, but we are having great luck getting our maps picked up, and then it did taper off, and I haven't had any luck towards the back half of the season. So
I think that there's some improvements need to be done here if this feature is going to have any kind of longevity, because as it stands right now, 3 months in, I would say that it's essentially a dead feature. Because like I've logged into the game, I don't know, 10 times this month already. Well, not already, but 10 times in the past 2 weeks. I've logged into the game, and every single time I've checked, there's not a single player posted map on the board.
Yeah.
And players aren't posting the maps because no one is picking them up and doing them. And so, I mean, there's a pretty simple solution to that, I think. You should have the option, if you log back in and nobody picked up your map, that you can pick your own map back up. Mm-hmm. And then you don't lose it. Yeah. And then the second solution is... Right now, when you post a map, the only people that can see it and do it are other people on your server.
Yeah.
But if there was a way for you to get maps from multiple servers, more of an online, global map board, or even just a friend board. If I could see maps that my friends, my Xbox friends list, if I see my friends have posted a map, then I'm more likely to want to do that map, because I know it helps my friend out and it helps me out. If there's a way to do that without it being like a cheesable thing where I make a map for my friend and he makes a map for me and we go back and forth and cheese it.
I mean, you could cheese it, but there would always be the risk that another crew could pick up that map then, because more people would want to be using it if more people were trying to cheese it. You need to increase the amount of people using this feature, and that would be a good way to do it. Just up the risk reward factor,
Yeah, definitely. I think anything they can do to increase it, incentivize it, like maybe treasures that you get from those maps are worth more emissary grade. You'll emissary faster if I'm doing these maps versus other maps, but I really think the big one is, let me get maps from not just from my own server. Let me get maps from my friends or like from a larger pool of players, so that when I log in, I'm going to see more maps, and there's going to be more people that might see my map. If I put a map out there, I need more than just the crews on my server to be able to see that map and have a choice to do it. Because right now, they're done. Like, nobody's doing the maps, which is too bad.
It's a shame. But it's a great feature. Like I said, it's something that, to my delight, once I realized this was coming, because, I'm in the Insider program, but I try not to spoil myself with the Insider program. So I'm basically dead weight in the Insider program. But, so I could see this stuff is coming. I generally don't. But I was just like, oh my God, you can make your own treasure maps. This is fantastic. I am going to have so much fun with this. And I did have a lot of fun with it, but a couple times I was like, I want to, create the ultimate treasure map, or I want to, do some specific theme, and we'll get into the time we were going to do that, and we really couldn't. But now it just feels like there's no incentive, because if I take all this effort to making this delightful map for somebody, for another crew, chances are they won't even find it, and it will just evaporate over time on the board and just, go away once the game has an update or whatever. So it does kind of discourage you from wanting to do too much with it.
Yeah. Well, and I do feel like it's the kind of thing where it's easy to imagine them going back and improving on it. It's like you've introduced a new system almost, but that doesn't mean that they're done with it, that they are never going to touch it again. This is a new system that itself can be built upon, making different kinds of maps or changing the way that we can access the maps. I hope that they do go back and improve on it and maybe flesh it out, because at the moment, like you said, I would love to create the maps, but I know with near 100% certainty that if I put the map on the board, nobody is going to do it. And that's too bad, because it's fun to make your own map. It's fun to think about, where do I want to bury the treasure? It's fun to think about what treasures am I going to bury to put on that map. And that's even just not even doing it for the commendations. That's just doing it for the fun of it. But there are commendations to do it with it as well. But yeah, I hope they kind of find a solution to that, and don't just let it be like a feature that was cool for a month and then kind of went by the wayside.
Yeah, I hope it's not, the in-adventure version of the arena where they just... yeah, but I am so hopeful for the feature. It's young yet. There's lots of ways to re-incentivize, to drive engagement, and yeah, you're right. All it needs is a few tweaks.
Yep. So that's kind of the main new features of the season. So all that stuff came in when the season launched. And
can I just say, I do really appreciate, and I know some players, some Sea of Thieves diehards that maybe, are like Sea of Thieves fans and not, like long-term Rare fans like our community or others. But I know there are those people who are like, you haven't added enough this month. You haven't added enough this season. I'm voicing my displeasure on the internet. And for me, I'm greatly appreciative when they have less stuff going on in December, when you are at your busiest between all of your obligations with family and, the holidays and gift buying and card mailing and all of that. It's a really stressful time of year. And like one year they did the advent calendar thing where you had to log in every day, and it was a bit much. And so I like when they peg December as this is the season, the more low key season, where we're going to have quality of life improvements. We're going to have stuff that will really enrich gameplay, but it's going to be a little quieter. That's perfect. That's perfect for the holidays. Please don't change that, Rare.
right, yeah, it's kind of the opposite of Halloween to me, because the more you want to engage me at Halloween, the better. I love Halloween content. I want to get in there. I want to fight skeletons every week of the month.
Yeah.
But like you said, the holidays are busy. But on that note, they did continue their trend through that they had kind of done through all the seasons of doing some of these live events, which continued into December. And even into January, which are kind of the typical annual Festival of Giving.
Yeah.
They do kind of every year. So Festival of Giving, they do it every year, and it really boils down to you're going to earn some rewards by letting other players sell your treasure.
Yeah.
Like gifting it away.
And we didn't even have to kidnap the child this year. It was great.
That's right. It was a Christmas miracle. There was no child trafficking. There was and I'll say this too. All that stuff we said about like the new little features that they added, sitting around the table in the chairs, rolling dice, setting off fireworks. All of these things felt to me like they came at the perfect time.
Yeah,
because they enhance that holiday pageantry, the kind of warm fuzziness of just goofing off around the holidays, setting off your fireworks at Christmas. So you had the Festival of Giving. Of course, every year they give away the Gilded Voyages. I think this year there was like a twist where they were clearing out your inventory if you had too many Gilded Voyages saved up. Yeah,
because I know Cameron and I, we like to hoard our Gilded Voyages because you never really feel like you have the opportune time to do it. Like I want to make the most out of this during a Golden Glory weekend where they, up the gold you get from everything. And so you're like, but usually during Golden Glory weekend they have something else going on, and so you can't really dedicate yourself to these Gilded Voyages, which are more lucrative, and you get like more Athena. And so yeah, like I was like, oh, just keep hoarding it, and then they said, actually, if you get a new Gilded Voyage and you haven't used your last one, well, guess what? It's just going to overwrite it. So we had to like actually clear out our old Gilded Voyages and do them before we picked up the new one,
which I was fine with. I kind of like having that manual like push to say, no, you have to use these up, and and you don't need to wait for the most opportune time. You just need to find a time to do them throughout the year, because hoarding them is the same as not using them. It's almost like, okay, so there's a principle.
It's almost like needing that incentive to play the arena. And it's like, I'll just do it later. I'll just do it later. What?
There's like a principle in gaming where an item in your inventory is too powerful to use. I think that the analogy that you can relate to is the Master Ball on Pokemon.
It's I know exactly, and I was thinking Master Ball, which was a big problem until you exploit the missing no glitch, and then you get infinite Master Balls. But
right. Well, yeah. If you're not glitching, we don't glitch. We're not glitchers. But yeah, I mean, the Master Ball, it's like, okay, you get one ball that is just the instant perfect catch of any Pokemon. Go ahead and use it. And then you said, cool, I will never.
Yeah.
Because there will never be that one time where I'm like, this moment is worth using up my only Master Ball.
Right, because you're thinking like Mewtwo, right? Like that would be the time to use the Master Ball. But if you can get Mewtwo with another lesser Pokeball... Well,
right, so that's the Gilded Voyages. So I like this notion of being like, okay, we'll give you another one, but you have to use your old one first. And so stop thinking of it as this too powerful to use thing and just use it. I like that with the Gilded Voyages because the Gilded Voyages are fun. It's fun to spend an afternoon just getting a ton more treasure more quickly than you're used to. So that's cool. We did the Festival of Giving stuff. And then we got into the... this year's Grog Monet event, which is kind of the New Year's event.
Second year they've done Grog Monet as an actual event. Festival of Giving has kind of been in the vocabulary of the game, I think, since the first holiday season.
Maybe.
But Grog Monet came about in 2020 as the New Year's celebration.
Yeah, it's a very clever pun. But,
it is. Which most Americans probably wouldn't get.
Yeah, so actually what made this one interesting, you mentioned this is the second year of it.
Speaking of Grog, hold on, Jeff. I'm going to open up a cider, so that's... Thank you.
It.
All right.
Hold on, let me just take a sip of... Okay. Or that's but the storage crate sucking up all the bananas.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait, why do we have 40 more views in the live stream right now? Oh... So I didn't know you could search for slurping noises on Twitch, but here we are.
Yeah, there's apps for that. So, Grog Monet, they actually did a thing with that the second year of it, where they retroactively gave a reward for last year. So they gave out this tankard, the Grog Monet tankard, but if you participated last year, they put a notch in it, and then if you participated this year, they put a second notch in it. So every year that you participate, you're going to get another notch in your tankard. And this kind of pissed some people off because they're like, well, you're rewarding me for something last year that I couldn't participate in, and you didn't even tell me. Like, people are okay if they miss out on something if they're aware ahead of time what they're missing out on.
Yeah.
But if you retroactively say, by the way, here was another reward you missed out on, and you didn't know you were going to miss it, then they get pissed off. Well, yeah. I don't have a lot of sympathy for it because the way I look at it is there's like 10,000 other tankards in the game.
Yeah, it's and we'll be getting into this when we discuss the arena news.
Hopefully not in too much detail.
No,
anyway.
I'm just saying, like, at this point, like Sea of Thieves, it is basically impossible to have every cosmetic and item that has ever been offered through everything, whether it be in-game events or extra game giveaways or contests. Like, virtually impossible. You're not going to be able to get everything. And so I know there's the FOMO, fear of missing out, for you granddads out there listening. I know there's a lot of that when it comes to this, and it's especially bad for the older Rare fandom where we were weaned on this collectathon completionism mentality. And it's hard to play Sea of Thieves, this living game that's kind of operating under very modern standards, to miss out on items. And So I have sympathy with that, but we're all going to run up eventually into an item that we can't get. And so it's kind of like ripping off the bandage. It hurts, but eventually it's going to do you good to have that off. So got to let the wound breathe.
My attitude towards it is, so they look at this and they say, the developers who did this, they say, wouldn't it be cool if every year that you participated, you got a notch in your tankard and it was like this celebratory thing and you could show everyone and say, this is how long I've been doing this. And the answer to that question is yes, it would be cool. And there's a type of person in the community that would say, don't do anything cool if there's a chance I miss out on it.
Right.
Like, I would rather everyone not get the cool thing than just me not get the cool thing. And I don't think that's a great attitude. I think that every time they say, wouldn't it be cool if we gave out this reward for this? And then anyone who's not in that, part of the Venn diagram and is going to miss out, they say, no, it would not be cool. Don't give anything to anyone if it's not happening to me. And, oh well, it is what it is. But anyway, Grog Monet was interesting for reasons not just the tankard. Because it was kind of a different activity than last year, right? Like last year, I think we were digging up explosive barrels and like chests of rage and stuff and like setting stuff on fire.
It was focusing on like the fireworks aspect of New Year. But now that we have fireworks in the game, they went a different route this year and they went into the drunken hooliganism aspect.
Yeah, so it was just like a list of tasks that are like, go do this thing, but do it while really drunk in the game. Yeah. Drinking 3 tankards of grog, and then try to dig up a chest, drink 3 tankards of grog, and then kill some skeletons. And this is the kind of event I tend to like when they do these events, which is boils down to one, you can complete just about all of it in one session. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a huge piece of it to me. And then 2, it's during that session, you're going to go into the game and you're just going to kind of do a different activity than you've ever done before. It's not like a wild twist, but it's just a small twist. It's like, okay, you can do all of these challenges in about 4 hours. And for those 4 hours, you're going to run around and get drunk and try to complete things. And that's fun because there's no pressure and it's not going to take up my entire month of trying to get it done.
Right. And I think it's one of those events where it's much more fun if you're doing it with a crew, especially a full crew of 4 versus trying to solo it by yourself, because I could see this being absolutely miserable if you don't have backup when you're blind sneaking drunk and falling over yourself and you're trying to fight skellies or whatever. And what we did was we got, and I don't know whose idea this was, if it was Dre's or yours, we got it from someone, but we got the chest of 1,000 grogs, which is the chest where you pick up and you immediately feel drunk, inebriated, and you can also refill your tankard with this chest. It's an infinite amount of grog can come from it. And so, or maybe just 1,000 grogs. I've never actually tried to deplete it, but so we made sure we dug up one of these. I think we had some sort of voyage in one of our inventories, an older voyage that we were hoarding because we are hoarders. Well, Cameron and I are hoarders, but we had it. We were able to use it. We were able to dig up a chest of 1,000 grogs, and then we were able to take it to the islands with us, trying to complete these tasks, but refilling our tankards versus having to run back to the ship and filling it up there. So much easier that way. Yeah,
I think it probably would have been near impossible without the chest of grogs, or at least it would have been just a way bigger pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But as it was, I had fun with it, but it's the kind of thing where we have fun doing this for one session, and then I want you to leave me alone and let me play the game my own way. Don't give me an event that takes. Don't give me an event that is like it takes 4 sessions to complete, and I'm just grinding, to get it done before the time limit.
Right. I think that's what separates a good event from a bad event, is when you feel like you're just jumping through hoops to jump through them. The FOMO, as I mentioned, versus you're actually having fun with what they're laying out for you.
Yeah, and I kind of want to go down. Maybe I'll do this as a feature on the blog, but I kind of want to rank all the live events they did for the time they were doing them because, and we'll get into this later. It seems like they're basically done for the most part doing the live events. They're moving to a new kind of thing, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
I could still see them like pulling out Grog Monet and other things.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, we'll talk about it when we talk about the adventure stuff. But,
I will say I enjoyed this year's Festival of Giving and Grog Monet way more than the shit they pulled for Thanksgiving, where I had to eat 300 pounds of meat. Yeah.
The Feast of Bounty, if I do that thing where I rank all the live events, Feast of Bounty will probably be the dead last worst one.
Yeah, and you know me, like I am somebody who tries to look at the bright side of these things. I very rarely have a bad thing to say about a game I generally like, and I think this is the only Sea of Thieves event where I'm like, that was a bad event. That was just like no redeeming qualities there. I hated it. Thank you. But that was season 4. I didn't have any problem with the ones in season 5.
Yeah, so obviously a new season always comes with new cosmetics. There's cosmetics to earn from the commendations. There's cosmetics to earn from leveling up the season renown. There's the Plunder Pass cosmetics. And then there's new stuff in the Emporium every month. I don't know how much we have to say about all this. None of it is particularly exciting specifically to our DK Vine audience. Like, I know last season we had the kind of Kremlin crocodile stuff to talk about.
Which was actually, like, I think the main draw of the episode for the usual DK Vine crowd. I did like all these cosmetics. Like, as far as having, like, holiday-themed things that you unlock through the seasonal progress, the Aurora ship sets, the like Northern Lights kind of Borealis aesthetic. Oh my god, that's probably my favorite holiday themed anything in the game as far as like the winter holidays. It's just absolutely perfect.
Yeah, I would say my pirate looks really good in the Creeping Cold costume, which is too bad because I don't like to dress up as a cold character except in December, but I didn't unlock it until like late February. So,
well, right. Like a lot of this stuff. Luckily, the stuff that was in the higher tier of the seasonal renown, like that was like just the collector's variants of a lot of the ship parts. So you could get a lot of this early on, so it wasn't like we were unlocking this Christmas and holiday stuff late in February, but there's some of it was like, I know you in Michigan, your winter lasts a lot longer than me here in Virginia, but it's still like, I don't really want to don this cold stuff now that we have, buds on the trees.
See, for us, it's we still have snow on the ground, but we don't want to. So we don't want to be reminded of, like, that's one of the big things for me too, is how it can be the dead of winter and I can hop into Sea of Thieves, go to my favorite outposts like Golden Sands, and there surely won't be anything bad going on there.
Yeah.
And I just feel like I'm in a tropical paradise. I think that for a few weeks of December, I'm excited to be in the cold, excited to be in the snow. And then after that, I'm like, all right, take me back to my pirate island paradise. I don't want to be reminded of the cold anymore.
Yeah, my in-game title, the title that I display under my pirate's name is Legend of the Sun, which I got during the summer Sea of Thieves event for doing everything. And I feel like that's like kind of, it aligns with what I want my pirate and the reasons I play Sea of Thieves to be celebrated is just like it is like I'm the king of the tropics, whereas, the cold stuff, the winter themed stuff, it's fun for a few weeks, but it should never be the primary aesthetic of the game in my mind. So all these people who want an Arctic region, one, I'm not sure they understand how the Caribbean works, which is what the Sea of Thieves is, pretty much based on. You'd have to sail pretty far to get to somewhere cold.
Magic, Hyle. Is such thing as magic.
There is, but it would just break the immersion Jeff.
I want meteor shower region.
you want Moon Mountain Pass from Star Fox Adventures.
I want Moon Mountain Pass from Star Fox Adventures with like alien mushrooms, like a lot of bioluminescent mushrooms and a lot of meteor showers and like shooting stars in the sky, and then like the rocks can randomly come down and hit you. But if you come up, maybe you find a little bit of gold inside that rock.
I mean, UFO sightings are part of nautical legend, so you could make something work with that. I know Steve, the aforementioned Steve from Off of Rare Gamer, really wants aliens in the game, so, but I would take aliens over, Vikings.
Yeah, well, anyway, we get our taste. We get our little taste of cold every December. Yeah, then there was, in the Emporium, there was Barbossa-themed stuff, like the Captain Barbossa from Pirates of the Caribbean.
Which is surprising.
Ship.
It was honestly
because it felt like we were done. It felt like we'd moved on from the Pirates of the Caribbean stuff. And then they're like, nope, we got one more. Here we go, one more set. But it was cool. There's a dog in there. The mutinous mutt or something like that.
Yeah, I was just like, why? What's this dog? Because we already had the prison dog with the key, that's like taken right from the movie. And I'm like, well, what's this dog? I don't know.
Yeah, I have no attachment to this dog. I don't give a shit about this dog.
I only like celebrity dogs, all right? Like, how many Twitter followers does this dog have? Is the dog verified? Otherwise, I have no time for it.
Influencer dog. Yeah, then there was the Lodestar stuff that came in January, this kind of Starman constellation stuff.
Lodestar. I was like, Lodestar, how do you know my Pornhub channel?
No, not Lodestar. Quit cracking nuts, Hyle.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't really have any opinion on the Lodestar stuff. So cool.
I don't understand the Lodestar stuff because used to be these cosmetics would be added to the game, these like cursed pets, right? And there would be a reason why this cat would be like glowing like lava, or would be a skeleton, or would be gold. It would, it has one of these curses that afflict the pirates and turn them into these maybe skellies if they become deceased while afflicted with the curse. But I don't know what the Lodestar stuff is supposed to be, which is just like a pet with a constellation on their body. Like, is that a curse? Or is this just a weird tattoo? Like, what is this? And it doesn't explain in the description.
It's body paint.
I guess, but I think sometimes they get a little silly with these Emporium items, and if there's no lore explanation baked in, I raise one eyebrow like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
She smells. She's cooking.
I don't smell what they're cooking. I don't understand what they're cooking. I've got COVID nose.
I don't smell what they're cooking either. As you know, I'm anosmic.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry.
Don't have a sense of smell. But yeah,
sorry,
that's why I don't watch
The Rock.
That's why I don't watch any of his movies. I just don't get it. Yeah, but then February had the most important Emporium cosmetics for our discussion. Not because of what they were, but because of what they caused to happen to us. So yeah, the cutthroat weapons.
So we have been wanting, we being DK Vine, we being Jeff of Golden Sands blog post and DK Vine, and Hyle of DK Vine, and nothing else really. We've been wanting them to elaborate on the like rare heritage ship sets in the Emporium. The Baron Bird for Banjo-Kazooie, the Paradise Garden for Viva Pinata, the Cutthroat for Killer Instinct, ship sets. Because we were like, wouldn't it be great if in addition to these ships, we could also have items based on these games and these properties? And of course, our imaginations took that to be like for the bucket that you bail out the ship, or in Cameron's case, vomits into and stores. What if the bucket for the Baron Bird cosmetics was just Leaky, the the pail from Treasure Trove Cove, and it was just leaky. And you could, even have, the fanon that it is leaky, but in pirate times. And then leaky gets in the game before TT officially does. But
you can get the shovel from Viva Pinata as a shovel in Sea of Thieves.
And we've all been, you could have the Rare Racers stuff in the game, and you could finally have TT as a watch. And so we were all, jazzed about this, and they finally added the first Rare Heritage item set in the game, and it's Cutthroats for Killer Instinct. However, it's not, I think exactly like we were hoping for. And granted,
they're pretty much not themed by Killer Instinct at all.
Yeah, I'm less married to, Killer Instinct than I am some of the other properties, but it would have been nice to have like maybe an actual sword from the games or, whatever. I realize you can't do, a 1-to-1 swap in there for everything, because I don't know how many guns are in Killer Instinct. But it would be nice if you could have more relation to the characters. These just look like they're based on the ship set, like the aesthetics from the ship set, and then apply to the, Eye of Reach, the blunderbuss, and so on.
Anyway. So all that aside,
yeah.
we're playing the game, and Hyle normally at the start of an update will go right to the Emporium and buy everything they have.
Sure.
Because he's what we refer to as a whale.
Which people really want in Sea of Thieves because they want to hunt them, because it turns out...
You're not going to hunt whales in Sea of Thieves. Yeah. I'm not going to tell you people again.
It turns out people are just bloodthirsty out there. Like, oh, when are you going to add this so I can hunt it?
I think
what's your problem?
Well, yeah, people are now that they added in the rats. they added in the rats that you can see climbing along in the hull of the ship. People are asking, how come you can't eat the rats?
Right,
guys, quit! There's so much to eat in this game. You don't need to eat rats. You don't need to hunt whales. You don't need Arctic region.
I don't need to eat 500 pounds of rat come Thanksgiving. No, thank you.
Oh, yeah. No, we don't need to see the rat eating event they'd come up with. But yeah, so Hyle, normally you buy all the stuff, right? But I think this update, since there wasn't a new ship set, you maybe thought, oh, there's nothing new, so you didn't look at the Emporium, or you looked and you didn't catch that there was new stuff. And so we went about our day, we went about our session, we're sailing along. I don't even remember what we did. We had a buttload of treasure. We were emissaries, I think. And we start getting chased by another player. Were they a brigantine or a galleon?
I don't even remember at this point. They were chasing us, though.
It was, I think, a galleon. Yeah, and we were a galleon.
It was this thing where it became this, almost stream long pursuit. There are people who play this game who they don't play it for any other reason than to be aggressive towards other players. So they could be doing something else. They see a ship and they're like, let's abandon what we're doing. All that matters is chasing them until they rage quit.
Yeah, exactly. So we're being chased, and I mean, we're not pushovers. We know how to evade another ship, and we know how to fight if we have to fight. So we're leading them. I think we're leading them into the Devil's Roar. Someone was overboard doing something, and I needed help adjusting the sails because these guys are gaining on us, and we needed to pick up the wind. And I realized that there's no one on the ship with me.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone had an excuse for why they weren't on the ship, but not all the excuses were equal.
Well, wait a second.
Because I'm like, well, Hyle, where are you? And I look, and I can see your name tag on the outpost that we passed 20 minutes ago.
Okay.
And you said, I'm in the Emporium. No. I'm buying the cutthroat weapons.
No, you're remembering things too kindly to me, because I didn't give away my position. The reason you found out was the stream tattled on me.
Oh yeah, we're in the middle of a chase. This is going on for a while.
Uh-huh.
And Chris says in the live stream chat, like, Hyle, you fucking dweeb. You
didn't say that.
You are. I don't know what he said. He says some British stuff. I can't always understand him. But Chris says, Hyle is in the Emporium buying Emporium cosmetics right now, and that's when it clicked with me, and I realized that that's where you'd been for about 20 minutes.
Not 20 minutes. You're exaggerating. But look.
All right.
So
25 or something like that.
Over the course of our adventure, Cameron whipped out his new cutthroat weapons. They said, hey, have you seen the cutthroat weapons? I was like, there are cutthroat weapons in the game? There are Killer Instinct weapons in the game? And even though Killer Instinct isn't my favorite Rare franchise, and we haven't even officially determined if any of the iterations are DKU yet, that might be coming later in the season, but I was still intrigued because I still love Rare. They're, my favorite all-time studio, and any items harkening back to any Rare games I would want to have immediately. So I was like, well, as soon as we are out an outpost, I have to run into the Emporium and buy those. And the very first time I set foot on an outpost is when I had hopped off the ship to sell treasure because we were being pursued by this other crew. And I was like, okay, well, I will have enough time after I sell this, but before I get back to the ship, to maybe pop into the Emporium and buy the cutthroat weapons. And maybe I took some time to browse some other stuff as well. But
so that's why everyone was off the ship, is because we were passing by outposts and having everyone jump off and sell the best treasures.
Yep.
And then just continue sailing. So as this ship was chasing us, by the time they eventually did catch up to us and fight, or which they never did, but if they had, we would have already sold all the good stuff. And so I'm like, okay, why has everyone come back to the ship but Hyle? And as I am Gibbon in our live stream chat right now points out, we narked out your ass. Yeah, you got narked on. The live stream chat was like, Hyle's at the Emporium. Hyle's not helping the team. Hyle's being a selfish pirate, and he was.
Whatever happened to snitches getting stitches? I feel like we don't abide by the prison ethos we used to live by, everybody.
What about he who smelt it dealt it? What does that mean?
Well,
I don't have a sense of smell, so I don't know if that applies.
No, because that is the opposite of, because they were ratting on me, even though I dealt it. So really, I think this is Gibbon and Chris and everybody else's fault in the live stream chat. They dealt it.
What about he who denied it supplied it?
I'm too tired to piece that together. I'm the sleepy bear now. No, do I regret my actions? A little bit.
No, you don't.
No,
in the moment, you had no remorse.
I felt a little bad when it became this 40-minute argument afterwards. Yeah.
Well, it could have been the difference. We were three-manning a galleon in the middle of a chase, and it was unnecessary, and you did that to us.
Okay, but it's like, hey, Hyle, have you seen my TT stopwatch? It's in the Emporium now. Oh, we're being chased by another crew. Well, I wouldn't care about that. I would go buy TT. Now, granted, it wasn't TT. They were just some purple weapons that were purportedly Killer Instinct branded. But I'm easy. Okay.
What you just said right now was not a defense of what you did. It was just stating what you did.
Look, I'm still using the cutthroat weapons. I haven't switched them out because, I worked hard for those in that I put my entire crew at risk. We did not sink, by the way. We used a pro strategy of starting the Shores of Gold Tall Tale and sailing into the Devil's Shroud. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because we're pro gamers.
And as far as we could tell, they tried to pursue us into the Shroud for some reason, and they sank. Yeah. Because we thought at first that they had also gotten the Shroud Breaker, and they were pursuing us because we're like, oh, they know what they're doing. And apparently they had never attempted to sail into the Shroud before because they sank.
Yeah, that was it all worked out in the end. But I don't know. I mean, you're going to go to hell for it.
I mean, look, I'd rather laugh with the sinners than cry with the saints. Billy Joel.
All right, Billy Joel. All right. So anyway, moving on from cosmetics. there's just a couple more topics to touch on with season 5. Going to get into kind of the hot topics first.
Oh, spicy.
The less desirable fun time topics, and then we'll end on the more kind of exciting, happy good time topic.
Yeah.
Community Day.
Oh, where's the Price is Right losing horn sound effect? Oh, right.
What's the opposite of that sucking sound that turns us on so much? Oh, I don't know how to. Opposite
Jeff, that's even hotter. What are you doing?
Oh no! All right. Well, stifle your erection. Let me drain the blood from your extremities. Let's talk about Community Day.
All right. Yeah.
Community Day is a thing that this was the first time they've ever done this. Community Day. They did this during season 5, and it was kind of the community team at Rare promoting a special day, which happened to be on a Sunday when we always stream, where they wanted the community to all come together, play the game. Tweet out all of your favorite memories of the game and just kind of tweet out all this positive stuff about the community. And based on how many tweets they got into a hashtag, it would raise a multiplier on our loot in the game. We'd have like a gold and reputation multiplier.
Sure.
And it would make the biggest multiplier that they'd ever given in the game, like over 3 times multiplier. So we were excited about this, and Hyle, you actually had a pretty cool pitch. Well, I don't remember if you thought of it or if we just kind of collectively thought of it.
So like I knew I wanted to do something special for Community Day that would not only just be us playing Sea of Thieves, which we do every Sunday, and Community Day fell on a Sunday, which was just perfect for us because that is the day we stream this game. And, you know, I'm always trying to think of ways to bridge the divide that still exists between Sea of Thieves and some of our more traditional viewers, fans, readers, who come into DK Vine, who like Donkey Kong, who like Banjo, Conquer, but maybe haven't given Sea of Thieves a shot, or Sea of Thieves just holds no interest to them. And so I was out of town the week before and helping out with some family issues, and it was extremely lo-fi because I had no Wi-Fi at my grandparents' house. And so I had like an old journal, and I was like jotting down ideas in this journal, and I was like, Community Day, what can we do that would be fun? And I eventually hit upon this idea where we have these Golden Nile costumes in the game, essentially Kremlin costumes in the game. We could all dress as Kremlins. It was going to be you, Jeff, Cameron, Dustin, and myself. We're going to dress as Kremlins, and we were going to go banana heisting. We were going to try to get all of the bananas that we possibly could on a server, including and up to robbing other crews of just their bananas. And then we were going to, I guess, bury them in a banana horde and then post it on the quest board for somebody to find, like thousands and thousands and thousands of bananas, right? Just ludicrous amount of bananas. And I was like, that's going to be fun. That's going to be something kind of Donkey Kong related we can do in Sea of Thieves now. And it will hopefully attract people curious about that and kind of lead them to discover Sea of Thieves. And it's just win-win for everyone. I was really excited about it. You were excited about it, Jeff. And it was going to be something we don't often do these quirky kind of things in Sea of Thieves because we don't have time. We stream once a week, so we have to get the events done. And so we don't have time to kind of go off book and get creative as much as I would want to. So this was affording us that opportunity. I was excited. Yeah,
and then we couldn't play.
So, yeah, they were having server issues on Community Day. And we sat around for probably 2 hours or so, 2.5. Eventually, I got through, but the problem is the rest of my crew couldn't. We kept getting, Strawberry Bearded?
Strawberry Beard, yeah.
Yeah, Strawberry Beards forever.
Yeah, I guess it was a server load that they had not anticipated, that kind of spike in concurrent players trying to get into the game at the same time. And they had some issues kind of behind the scenes that maybe they didn't catch ahead of time. And it all culminated in basically the game like put out a message and said, we're not even going to let you like try to get through anymore. We're just going to start admitting like people like one by one. And because people who are trying to get in over and over and hitting that strawberry beard over and over are adding like a further load of strain onto the system. I don't know. Anyway, it was a bad deal. It was a bad time. I'm sure it was, equally disappointing for the development team.
Oh, I'm sure it was more disappointing for
team,
them. Like
their community team.
Yeah, something they wanted to do to drive engagement kind of just fell apart. So I'm sure it was 10 times worse for them than it was for us. We were going to do a silly thing, and hopefully,
right. I can't imagine that kind of panic of, the whole house is on fire and it's a fucking Sunday.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what their work schedule is like, but one has to imagine that people aren't working on Sunday, but you get called in to put out a fire essentially and scramble to fix what's going on. I don't pretend to know what goes on behind the scenes, but it must have been a very stressful, difficult day for everyone there at Rare.
Yeah, so I can't be angry, and I wasn't. I felt bad. I felt bad that we couldn't play, but I also felt bad for them. You hate to see that kind of thing happen. And it happens, especially in a live game like this. It's things are going to go awry. It's basically a tightrope walk at all times with a very small net, and so sometimes you're going to fall off and lose a trick. Lose a
track and nut.
Yeah, you're going to lose a circus performer. But
I think it's so they addressed this in February. They put out a podcast, the Sea of Thieves official podcast, where they kind of talked about a lot of the big issues facing the game, big issues that the community brings up that they wanted to talk about. One of them was this community day and the server issues. I know they ended up extending the community day by like 12 hours so you could still get the multiplier, but by that time we were just like, we had set aside the time when we were available to play. Yeah. And I couldn't play later in the day, so we just didn't play. It was pretty disappointing, but the development team, the kind of some of the people from Rare talked on that podcast in more detail, more specifics about what went wrong there and kind of what they're doing to, I guess, better predict when those issues are starting to arise, more proactive, preemptive repairs on their kind of behind the scenes stuff to prevent those kind of issues. I know that we actually couldn't get in the next week either. We had 2 weeks in a row. Yeah.
So this season we were cutting it pretty close to getting to level 100 because, there was the 1 week we didn't play because I was out of town, so we didn't stream. The very next week was Community Day. We couldn't play then because the servers weren't working. I got in for like an hour and a half by myself, and then I think Chris joined in because he was able to get in, but that was it. And then the week after that, we couldn't play at all. We kept getting like coral bearded or something. So it was like 3 weeks where we couldn't play. And in fact, that third week, now granted 3 weeks, that's not including server issues. The first week was on us, but still. That third week, that second week with the server issues, we just ended up playing #IDARB, because we were like, well, screw this, let's play a few quick rounds of silliness and then just call it a day. So it was discouraging. Like I have to admit, and I wasn't like upset, like because I'm not a whiny entitled man baby, but I was feeling a bit discouraged as far as Sea of Thieves goes for, half a month there where I was just like, my feelings of affection are at their all-time low towards this, just because I haven't been able to play, because we've had issues after issue, and also with what's happening with the arena, I just was having a bit of a bit of a low point, which I'm recovering from nicely. Being able to play the week after that finally felt good. It felt refreshing. It was like cleaning the crud out of your brain.
Well, I think for me, I don't know. I don't want to speak for anybody else. It's been like an angsty kind of tense couple months in the world in terms of events going on. And then in terms of just, I think the timing of the year, some sort of seasonal affective aspects going on. And then all of that on top of it with like Sea of Thieves just being my escape from that, but it not letting me play when I want to.
Yeah.
All kind of culminated in some kind of bad moods, general bad moods, in our group. But I for myself, I chalk a lot of it up to, for me, the seasonal affective disorder and not getting enough vitamin D and all that business. Because in the state of Michigan, winter never ends. So
yeah, Jeff, I'm gonna have to mail you a Happy Light. Do you have one of those Happy Lights?
I don't, but I do have a couple of Klaatu albums. And they have a picture of the sun on them.
Was it 3:47 Eastern time? Is that
3:47 EST. Yep, perfect. So that's really what's gotten me through this tough time in the world and in the season. But so disappointing we couldn't do the Community Day thing. We were pretty excited about it. I was impressed and excited with how big of a reaction it got, and like, so it's kind of almost a double-edged sword, because because it had issues because it was so popular, and if it hadn't had issues, that would have meant that it wasn't popular and that it was a dud. You know what I mean? Like, right. So like it's a good thing it was that popular. It's just too bad that caused the issues. But they also have said they're going to do a Community Day every season. Like one day a season, get on Twitter and hashtag us, and we'll maybe find some time to be silly one day every season.
If it works, yeah. I feel like now whenever we're approaching Community Day, it's going to just be like, what's going to go wrong? Is it going to work? Like we're all going to be holding our collective breaths. So we'll see.
Well, I don't know. I think the stuff they said about how they're preparing better for it and changing up the structure of their team to kind of be proactive in that way, that did assuage kind of my concerns. I think a big piece of that is just hearing them talk openly about the issue, rather than just not hearing from the dev team about what's going on, not hearing any behind the scenes, just getting those little messages they pop up on Discord and says, we are aware of issues going on, and we are aware that you lost some progress last week, and like those things, it's just nice to hear them talk candidly. This is what's going on. This is what we're doing about it. We're frustrated. So that podcast you can find on their YouTube, Sea of Thieves. If you use your favorite search engine, go crack a nut. But like, it's a great podcast episode because of them getting and talking about all these issues that you kind of are bubbling under the surface among the community, especially if you're really a diehard Sea of Thieves player, because they get into other issues that we are not going to get into on this podcast.
I did like to imagine on Community Day, like, the community gif of Donald Glover coming in with the pizzas and, the room's on fire. I just imagine that was Rare headquarters at that moment in time.
Yeah. You really do need to watch that show, Hyle. That's one of that's episode that GIF is from is one of the best episodes of sitcom television of this past decade.
It's one of the best. It's one of the best GIFs.
It's a good GIF. But yeah. So speaking of issues facing the community, hot topic.
Yeah, I don't think we need to.
I don't shop there.
No, I don't. The box lunch is the place that had all the Donkey Kong merchandise. The arena is shutting down. And I don't feel like we need to belabor this because there's not a lot to say. I'll have my piece, you'll have your piece, but I don't think we need to spend 40 minutes in anguish over this.
This is this is the way I've been thinking about it, mentally preparing for this conversation we're having right now. is the Kongversation is not a Sea of Thieves podcast.
No.
So we don't, we could have a whole episode about the arena shutting down if this was a Sea of Thieves podcast, but it's not. So we're not going to really dwell in the weeds for too long on it. But yeah, they did announce that starting with season 6, the arena is shutting down, and that mode, which is the kind of competitive 15-minute blast of multiplayer gaming mode, that mode is going to be removed.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think, Kyle?
Well, I guess I should have seen it coming, and I guess I did see it coming, but I was in denial that it was coming. The writing's been on the wall for over a year, and really the writing has been on the wall since they changed the arena and, in your words, ruined it. They changed the rules. They tried to tweak it so they would have, I guess they were trying to drive engagement, and they ended up just breaking it completely. And we've already discussed that in past episodes of the Kongversation, concerning Sea of Thieves. When they did the arena updates, they changed it. And so, I'm kicking myself because I wanted to do everything in arena. I wanted to get all those commendations done, and I never did. And part of that is on me. A large part of that is on me. And I will readily admit that I'm more mad at myself than anybody. However, they also stopped trying to drive people to arena. I think I mentioned the summer Sea of Thieves event. I think that was the last time where they had this event where they incorporated the arena, play the arena. And because I have such limited time to play the game, I've carved out a small chunk of my week to play Sea of Thieves on a weekly basis. Because of that, I'm usually having to do what they're doing in Adventure, especially time-limited events. If they do point me to Arena, then we would always incorporate it, and then I would finally get to play it. I know, Jeff, you used to have an Arena night with your friends every week, and I never had anything quite as applicable, but it's so, I'm upset about myself for not taking the initiative and drive to play it, but they also didn't give me a reason to when, I can't play Sea of Thieves 5 days a week. So, I wish they hadn't broken it, because you're right, they kind of did. And, lesson learned, but they're just shutting it down completely now. I always feel like the arena was kind of conflicting with what other people working on Sea of Thieves wanted to do, and it just never had the internal support ultimately, especially when the engagement just wasn't there.
The story of the arena is all just boils down to it's just kind of a shame, but it's not surprising, and it's not really anybody's fault. It's just kind of a too bad thing that it turned out this way. And I think part of that is, I don't think they understood when making it that the kind of investment it would require if you're going to make a mode that's competitive, it really does require a huge investment to build it up, make it balanced. If you're gonna have regular content for it, it was a kind of investment that they couldn't justify because it didn't have the initial numbers of people. And it's kind of like if you look at the way Sea of Thieves launched. Sea of Thieves launched to pretty widespread, I don't know what the word choice here is. There were a lot of detractors, complainers about the game, that it was not, it was bare bones and it was missing content. But it had such a strong initial audience that did buy in, that they were on board right out the gate, that it justified them making that investment to flesh the game out, which we're now continuing to see them to invest more and more. And every year has been even bigger than the previous year. And the game's just growing, and it's great. Not all games land that way. For example, I was really into another Xbox game called Bleeding Edge by Ninja Theory. Yeah. And when that game came out, it was also a little bit bare bones and needed to be fleshed out to really draw an audience. But it maybe didn't have enough of an initial buy-in group of fans that were dedicated into it for them to justify making the investment that it would take to really grow that game. So it's a tale of two stories. Sometimes you're a Sea of Thieves and sometimes you're a Bleeding Edge. And I think that the arena mode in a micro sense is the same thing. The mode came out. It didn't have enough initial, push by the fandom for them to say, okay, now we can go in and put this 110% effort into it that it needs for it to be successful. It's a little bit of a chicken and an egg scenario. The mode died because they didn't invest in it, but they didn't invest in it because the mode was dead on arrival almost. And I think they did that one initial, about a year into it, they did that big push to change a bunch of stuff. And like, you alluded to, I don't like the changes they made. Some of them were good, but overall balance wise, it ruined it, made it less fun, made it not less fun, made it zero fun. At least in Galleons, sloop mode is still good.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem is we did play the duo sloops together a few times, Jeff, and it was a blast. It was still a blast.
Yeah, the sloops is still good. The Galleon mode's way out of balance. And It's just not fun.
And also, it just wasn't fun trying to get into a match because, I mentioned like never had the time for arena. Part of that is because you would spend 40 minutes in the lobby waiting for a match to start, and then you would get merged into another lobby and you were waiting and the crews would drop out and you were still waiting, and then you're like, well, let's quit and then just try again. And it just was a grind just getting in there at all. And then, then it's like, how well are you going to perform? There's all these variables. So it's just like the arena was born. It's funny you mentioned like the launch of Sea of Thieves itself and how bare bone it was. Because the promise for Sea of Thieves, I think, is what enticed everybody. Like, yes, we knew it was bare bones, but that didn't matter because we knew how, like, it could evolve over time. We knew what the plans were. So it was just the base of the game and where we're going to go from there. That's the exciting part. Like, we didn't care that it was bare bones because it was just the beginning. So there's a lot of us that believed in it from the start. Because the core mechanics were so wonderful. It was such a good idea. And the arena was kind of born out of the show floor model of that, what they had at its very first playable E3 experience. When, we got to go to Rare and play it, that's what we were playing, was that build of Sea of Thieves where it was designed for ship-to-ship combat and like close proximity, and obviously it was a little bit more evolved than that, but it was still the same principle. And Sea of Thieves was so much fun even in that form where you were just encountering other crews and firing at them and trying to sink them, and you didn't have everything else. You didn't have skellies, you didn't have necessarily the island exploration that you have now. And so that's what was fun about Arena, was kind of getting back to that really early form of like, let's show this to the public, which was a fun game in its own right. And so I really liked it, and they changed it, and then I didn't like it as much, especially in Galleons. But there was still something there, and it's just a shame. And I know, like, Cameron and I have been struggling because we are the aforementioned completionist, and now there will always be this aspect of Sea of Thieves we are never able to complete. And it's kind of like this life lesson handed down to us from Daddy and Mama Rare, to, like, well, you're going to have to make your peace with this, or you're just going to have to stop playing Sea of Thieves. Are you going to be so discouraged that you're going to stop playing Sea of Thieves, you little baby? And it's like, no, I'm not. And so, it's kind of reframing the way you think about the game, because it's not like, unless I'm Briegel and I somehow have all the time sitting in the Taco Bell drive-thru to do everything in the game that I possibly can, I'm not going to be able to, not with a busy adult life, not with running a website and that covers the news of the shared Rare universe. I don't have time to play Rare games as much as I would like. So Sea of Thieves it's less about what you getting done everything. And, in a living game, that's just really not feasible, but it's about what your pirate does accomplish, the stories that are made along the way, And it's like the Grog Monet tankard, you can hold it up, and even if you don't have that first etch on it, it doesn't invalidate your experience, And that's what I'm trying to tell myself with Arena. Well, even if I only got to level 35 in Arena, even if I only got these commendations done, that doesn't mean my pirate's a failure. Doesn't mean I failed at Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, and see, my whole perspective on it is from a different angle, because I know that for some of you, some of it is just being upset because of a FOMO aspect of the missing out on rewards, on cosmetics. Whereas for me, I played Arena every Tuesday night for like well over a year. I leveled up to level 50 in like two months back in 2019. And so for me, my perspective on it is I'm not upset because of missing out on a cosmetic. I am upset that a mode that I liked is gone. Yeah. But I'm not that upset because to me, that mode has been dead for over a year now. Yeah. I've had time to come to grips with that. I haven't played the Arena regularly since they changed it because, in my opinion, it wasn't fun to play anymore. And my entire group that played it with me, I had a group that played every month, every Tuesday, every week. They stopped playing Sea of Thieves at all when the Arena mode changed. Like, they don't play Sea of Thieves anymore because that's what we played. And now, so for me, I have already come to grips with the Arena mode being dead, because to me, it's basically been dead for over a year. Now, the question, if anyone in the audience is like, well, why are they removing it? Why take out content? It's, the thing is that for them, it's still, even if they don't add anything new to it, even if they don't improve on it or change anything, it still is taking up a lot of development resources on their end just to keep it running and working. Yeah. Because if they change anything in adventure mode, anything they add to adventure mode is going to have knock-on effects in Arena mode, and they're going to have to do all this QA to make sure it's still working and fix new bugs that come up. The way I likened it in an analogy is like, if you are doing plumbing work in a duplex, apartment, and you shut off the water, or if you're doing electrical work in the duplex apartment and you're working on one side of the house, you're still going to affect the people living in the other side of the house. Yeah. So anyway, to me, I've already come to peace with the mode being gone. I don't care about the cosmetics going away. I know people who do, and that's fine. It's not me, but it's just like I said at the start. It's just a shame. It's too bad that it went this way. It's not really anybody's fault, and it is what it is. Now it's time to move on. This is kind of the part of a living, evolving game that you don't think about too often is when do you have to cut out parts of the past in order to keep moving into the future? Because Sea of Thieves will continue to evolve, and this is really the first time we've had like any friction with that. Yeah, and like you said, I enjoyed Arena when I could play it, when you were able to get into it, and before they really altered at least the Galleon gameplay. So I do mourn it, but I think what you described was almost like when you have an elder loved one who's suffering from dementia, and then they finally pass, and it's just like, well, they've been gone for a while now anyway. Like, like this is just puts it at peace. This just, there's no vestigial bodily hanging on. It's just gone now. And I think for the long run, it's a good thing. I can say like, oh, I wish they would have like officially made a statement like a year ago and said, hey, early 2022, we're going to be getting rid of Arena. So, get your licks in now. Because maybe that would just drive further engagement Arena. And then they would look at those metrics and be like, why are we getting rid of this mode? This is popular. We can't get rid of this. And then they say it's sticking around, and then everybody stops playing. I understand why they did it this way, but it still hurt a little bit, and it still
took a while to come to grips with. I still haven't completely come to grips with it. I'm trying, though. I'm trying to reframe the way I view Sea of Thieves. It's not Banjo-Kazooie. I don't get every fucking jiggy, you know. It is what it is. And I think if I didn't have Briegel in my life to show me that it is technically possible, it would be easier on me. So
yeah. And there is still hope that I have hope that elements of what the arena brought, elements of the Sea Dog faction as characters, as a group of people, elements of the Sea Dog Tavern as a place. I have hope that that kind of stuff could get repurposed for a new use in the future within the adventure mode.
Yeah,
you know
because that does, before I know we didn't want to go on and on and on about Arena, but that does bring up an interesting question, because it's not just Sea of Thieves, you know, multiplayer mode. I that's a misnomer, because all of Sea of Thieves is multiplayer. It's a shared game, but you know what I mean? Like it's not just this like separate ancillary mode. There is built-in lore around the arena. It is a physical place on the map, even if it's not physically taking place in the map, if that makes any sense. The Sea Dog Tavern exists in the Sea of Thieves. These characters, DeMarco and Lassetti, were, you know, introduced in the comics. By the way, nobody's found the missing episode of the Kongversation season 6 yet. Be the first to find it and at me on Twitter with the location, and you will win the first appearance of DeMarco and Lassetti, about to be removed from Sea of Thieves, autographed by the author. Anyway, you know, what's going to happen to them? What's going to happen to the Sea Dogs? There is this whole like plot, like B plot, with like this mutiny happening within the Sea Dogs. And like, will that come into play? How will that tie into, you know, their father, the pirate lord? I don't know, but it'd be interesting to see, because, you know, this isn't a team of people. These aren't a team of creators who like to just abandon things and then forget about them. It's not going to be like they're just going to disappear from the canon. They would. Yeah,
well, in a way, it opens them up to do new things with those characters that they maybe couldn't do before. So, you know, we'll see. I don't think that they necessarily planned for this to happen at this time. Like that, I think that it's a decision that they maybe put off for as long as they could, and maybe decided, you know, pulling that trigger and removing a whole mode, it must have been an agonizing decision. But it also doesn't seem like that they were maybe prepared for it in terms of, we're going to remove it and we're going to immediately replace it with this. Yeah. There is no replacement. But I do think that in time, you give them a year and you see what comes in the next following seasons, they will probably find some new repurposed use for the Sea Dogs Tavern, for the Sea Dogs Company, for maybe, you know, implementing those characters and stuff back into the game world in a new function that we didn't know about before, or that we didn't have before. Yeah. So that's it. That's all I have to say about the arena. No more nuts to crack. There's one last thing that happened, kind of a surprise at the end of the season. In season 5. Yeah, they added the cutthroat weapons. We already talked about that. No, Hyle, not that. There's more. Oh. We got a little event you alluded to. They put out a YouTube preview that was like Sea of Thieves in 2022 kind of preview. This is like they gave like a roadmap, and they explained new kind of ways that they're going to be telling story in Sea of Thieves and progressing the story. And the first of that began with Season 5 towards the tail end. It's surprising it started with Season 5, because you would feel like this is what would launch Season 6. And when they announced this, they announced it right alongside the arena closure and all the bad vibes with that. So I like misread the dates, and I was like, okay, this is starting, you know, early March or whatever. And then I like looked again. I was like, wait, why? It's starting before Season 6? That doesn't make any sense. All right. But yeah, it's the first Sea of Thieves adventure. And these kind of harken back to those time-limited events in the first year of the game, like the Hungering Deep, and
cursed sails, and where you would have something happening within the game world that would be a limited time thing. Like, if you don't experience it, then in the present, in the moment, then you will just miss it. It's something they got away from with the Tall Tales and the kind of events. But I think they've returned to it probably because they realized it was too hard to tell an ongoing narrative in a more evergreen fashion.
Yeah, and so I think that this is the natural evolution of Sea of Thieves. The evolution of 2021 was getting onto this seasonal format, this season's schedule. But the evolution that 2022 is bringing us is, if you're going to be a living game with a living, breathing world with an evolving narrative that carries on year after year, you really need to have that narrative play out in-game regularly and not just in these giant released evergreen chunks, like a drop of 5 Tall Tales here that can be replayed forever. If you're going to have a living game that can evolve, you need to take advantage of that medium and things that only a living game can do. And part of that is telling story that evolves over time, and it evolves the world. Yeah. It changes the environment. It can give the game temporary game states. For this month only, the game world is like this, and that's not meant to be a permanent change, but it's going to change up how the game is now, and you get to experience that now, and then maybe next month we have some new, interesting, different thing we're going to do with the world, and it's going to evolve, and you're going to see how the islands change, and the world changes, and the characters change, and that is what they're doing here. They've dabbled in that in the past, but this is them saying, no, this is now a concrete part of the game. Every single month, they're going to have a story called an adventure, and these are going to evolve the world. They're going to introduce kind of, when new gameplay is coming in with the season, the adventures will have the story of, well, what brought that new gameplay here? Yeah. When there's a new fort or whatever, the adventure is the story of, how did that fort get here? Why is it here? That kind of thing. And
I think when they got away from this with the Tall Tales, I commended it, because I was like, as much fun as the Hungering Deep was, I would much rather prefer an evergreen thing in there, so new players can experience it. And now that we've kind of gone back to the original method, maybe in a more scaled down fashion, time will tell, but yeah, I mean, I really don't have a problem with it, because as much as I do love the Tall Tales, I still have greater memories of the Hungering Deep, of that experience being a limited thing. I think it made it more special, and it felt like it had more stakes for the game world. And that's no slight against the Tall Tales. It just, having sat with both now for a couple of years, I think you can make a greater impact, especially with a living game, with these time-limited things. So I go back and forth on it. I waffle, but I quite like what they're doing, and I'm quite excited to see where they take these throughout 2022.
Yeah, so the way my perspective on it is, I like it if they kind of generally stick to 2 sort of rules. One being the same thing we said earlier about the live events. As long as this is something I can experience in about like 1 session, and I don't ever feel like the game is driving me to feel like I'm in a grind to meet a deadline. There's a lot of stuff you can grind in Sea of Thieves, but it's all like unlimited, not time limited. So it's like, yeah, you need to get 50, you need to clear the Fort of the Damned 50 times, but you don't have to do it in a month. You can do that over the course of the whole rest of the lifetime of the game, until they decide to remove the Fort of the Damned and we all cry. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, but yeah, it could happen.
But if you're going to make me grind something, don't make it time limited. And if you're going to make something time limited, don't make it feel like a grind. Don't make it feel like, I really...
That's the tagline on my Lodestar channel. How did you know?
Yeah, I just don't want to feel like we're planning extra sessions in the week, moving our schedule around because we're frantically trying to figure out how are we going to have time to finish this before it goes away. I don't like that feeling. I don't need that.
And when
that's the one rule.
When I said it, I will let you get to your second rule for dating your teenage daughter. But I just wanted to say, like, when I said it was like maybe scaled down a bit from what the Hungering Deep was, when I played this first adventure, it did feel more digestible than the huge kind of almost like apocalyptic scenario that something like Cursed Sails felt like. And, well, Cursed Sails was even worse because you had specific times of the day you had to do things. So it's basically like, hey, just abandon your life. I don't care what you have going on. Sea of Thieves is your life now.
That was rough. That one was total investment time, way too much. And if scheduled times of day, that was the worst.
Yeah, I didn't feel like that was the case with this first adventure. And I don't know where the adventure's going to go after this, but it did feel more thoughtful in that regard. So
rule number 1, just don't make it feel like a grind. If it's going to be time limited, let me do it at a leisurely pace and feel like I can get it done in the time frame without being frantic. Rule number 2, if you're going to make something time limited, it either has to be very inconsequential or very consequential. Now,
okay.
let me...
Glad we cleared
but
that
not
up.
in the middle.
Okay.
So what I mean by that is, if you have a time-limited live event that's like, go do the Festival of Fishing and catch enough fish in a month, that feels very inconsequential, and I won't be upset if I miss it. So if it's very inconsequential and it's time-limited, that's fine. That's good. On the flip side, if you're going to make it time limited, make it very consequential in that it's the kind of thing that could only be time limited. There's no way to make it evergreen. For example, right now the story is that Golden Sands Outpost is destroyed, right? If you have plans for that outpost in the future that you're going to change things about it and maybe bring that outpost back or change it into something else, then you just justified why is this time limited. It's justified. There's a good reason that this was time limited because the world had to change.
Yeah.
For me, the Hungering Deep, there's nothing really that justifies that being time limited because there wasn't really any world change that needed to be there. You know what I mean? Like, I think that it makes sense for something to be time limited if it's the kind of thing that can't be evergreen.
Right.
Otherwise, why make it time limited?
Right, then so make it a tall tale.
Yeah, don't make anything arbitrarily time limited just for the sake of gating off content and driving engagement. Which I would think I want all of them to be very consequential in the sense that it had to be time limited because the world is changing around it and we can't go back because you can't just keep 50 different world states all like preserved on different servers. So you can't have Golden Sands Outpost exist and not exist. One of them has to be true, which means that this event has to end. Mm-hmm. So that's where I would like them to lean with it, is if you're going to be time limited, which they are, they're going to have one of these once every month, really lean into the evolving, changing world aspect of it. And that is why it's time limited, because we can't make that evergreen. And that would force them to explore really interesting and creative avenues, I think, of narrative, like things that they haven't done before as much. And so now let's talk in specifics about this first adventure, the Shrouded Islands, because I just brought up, they destroyed my home, Hyle.
Yeah, it would be like Nintendo saying, we're burning down the vegetation on Donkey Kong Island. And I would be like, oh, well, great. Now my name doesn't make any sense for my website. And that's what Rare did to you. So congratulations.
I'd like to think it's not personal because like they couldn't get rid of an outpost that has a tall tale on it. Otherwise, that tall tale wouldn't happen. So they had to get rid of one that did not have a tall tale. That only leaves a couple options. On the other hand, I kind of wish it was personal because it would mean that they know who I am.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, Golden Sands blog post is now a defunct blog that doesn't make sense.
Well, have you updated? I haven't visited it since the adventure, but have you updated it to reflect it being destroyed? Like, have you changed?
Yes,
you have.
That the header image is now the newly destroyed Golden Sands in the green fog.
Nice.
It is very depressing.
Yeah,
but in a good way. I think it's cool. It's a good look.
I think I've targeted why you have seasonal affective disorder. It's because you can't get any sunshine from your own blog.
Yeah, they destroyed my namesake. So yeah, the story in the game right now is that Flameheart, Captain Flameheart, has seemingly kind of retreated from haunting over islands and attacking them with his fleets of ghost ships.
Mm-hmm.
But as he's kind of retreated from that position, a mysterious ghostly fog has started spreading across islands around the seas, including Golden Sands Outpost, and that outpost in particular was invaded by some kind of invading force, which left it in a state of shambles and disarray, and all of the residents of that outpost have been turned up missing. They're gone. They're kidnapped.
All except the Skelly in the cage above the Reaper's table.
Yeah, and the dog that is boarded up inside the Pirate Emporium.
Right. I hope they left water and some food. I hope they have one of those feeders that dispenses.
I'm assuming that fog really condenses. That fog inside there just starts to condense on the mirrors and glass and just drips down so the dog can lick the glass to get water.
I know.
Does that work?
Yeah, because every time I take a really hot shower and I'm like, oh, I'm so dehydrated, I just start licking the mirror afterward.
Mm.
Yeah, little insight into my morning routine. Yeah, I mean, it's really effective, and this is what you could only accomplish with maybe a time limit, because I assume Golden Sands Outpost will return to its natural state at some point. But, I alluded to the apocalyptic vibes of Cursed Sails, and they're the residents of the Outpost were freaking out about these newly arisen Skelly armadas. And, the Skellies were put up a warning on the outpost, and everybody was leaving their stations. All the shopkeepers were just milling about, and it was just this sense of chaos, Hyrule Castle Town 7 years later in Ocarina of Time kind of thing. And here in Golden Sands Outpost, you've got the tavern is abandoned. And the lights are off, there are no candles lit, and it's just the eeriest feeling to be in there. And George, the mysterious stranger, is no longer there, and just this feeling of what happened here, taking the familiar and making it unsettling. And Golden Sands Outpost was one of the most inviting outposts in the game,
well, there's a reason that I named my blog after it.
And that's probably the reason why they targeted this in game, is because taking the sunniest outpost and turning it into this ethereal wasteland. Yeah.
Good contrast. They knew how to tug at my tension strings there, but so it's not just a change to the state of the world. There is a adventure to go on here. It's a small one, but it basically is just a bite-sized vignette of story to kind of lead us into season 6 and what's to come.
Yeah.
So we kind of the big I think headline item here is that the character Belle is now in the game. And Belle was a character that was advertised a lot kind of in pre-release build up to the game, and is kind of the last big character that has never showed up in the game from that period of time.
Right. I think we first learned about her at E3 2017. She had a statue commissioned, and we were like, who is this? Of course, E3 2017 was still before the game was out, and so it was trying to learn all we could about the game and how it was going to be structured and whatnot. And it's funny, we finally got to this point because I feel like we thought a lot of it would be kind of like the adventures or the Hungering Deep beforehand, and then we kind of took an intermission on those for the Tall Tales and everything else. But yeah, Belle, and then, by the way, that's Belle, Belle, not to be confused with the other Belles in the lore.
Diving Belle, Bel,
Bel, and I think is there another Belle, or is that? I
think it's just the two.
Just the two, and then there's just the ship.
Are you thinking of Salty?
Why would I be thinking of Salty?
Well, you shouldn't be. That's why it's like that wouldn't be that's not a bell at all.
I don't know. I thought you were going somewhere with it because Salty really rings my bell. Like I don't.
Hey,
I don't know. That doesn't mean anything. But it just had the cadence of meaning something. I think that I was confused, but I thought the two bells were supposed to be the same. I thought they just changed the spelling when I got the Tales from the Sea of Thieves book. And so I just pictured that Belle being the Belle from the statue, and now I have to separate those characters in my mind. It's like Nintendo saying, no, the modern Donkey Kong isn't Donkey Kong Jr., and I'd be like, damn it, I have to just divorce years of accumulated headcanon now. Thank you. But yeah, it's this character that was bandied about in statue form, in artwork, and we finally get introduced to her. She is a revenant, which is she's got the glowing eye similar to George, the mysterious stranger, and Gloria, the mysterious stranger, who is no longer in the game. But
she'll be back. I'd bet on it.
These mysterious, I think, associates of the pirate lord Ramsey, who they hang out in the taverns and assist you in your becoming a pirate legend, and so we don't really know what Belle is, but they even incorporated her buoy, the buoy her statue is on. It appears next to the islands she's hanging out on in this adventure.
Yeah, I think they said in maybe a tweet or something, because they kind of sometimes they'll expand on lore with just a disposable tweet on twitter.com, which you can find by Googling on a search engine. But they just said something like she can teleport to any island that has one of her buoys.
Oh, okay.
So that's how she gets around, I guess. I don't know how the buoys get there. Presumably they arrive through some kind of little spectral portal, as anything from the Sea of the Damned does. But yeah, it's unclear if she's a ghost or if she's more of a revenant. And we know that she is much older than basically the rest of the pirates. Like Mike Chapman said, she's like maybe 300 years old or something. And so she has this knowledge of the Sea of the Damned greater than kind of even the pirate lord.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of just get a little taste here. We don't really know where the story's going. We don't know a lot about her yet. But we know that she is investigating these goings on, and she wants us to investigate for her.
Right.
What is up with this fog? What is Flameheart up to?
Yeah, and Flameheart is off the board now. He is, because he has been a world event similar to Forts, Skelly ship battles, and Ashen Lords. And then there's been the Flameheart battles, Flameheart in the sky. He's taunting you with his insults, his shtick. But that's posed the problem ever since the tall tale that introduced Flameheart into the game. Finally, it's okay. Well, now Flameheart is this world event. We can't really progress the Flameheart story if he's just a continual part of the game. Well, now he's not. Now he has receded from those world event battles, and you can still access the fight against the Burning Blade, and therefore, get a notch in those commendations if you haven't done them by the highest tier ship voyages, ghost ship battles you can buy from the Order of Souls. So like that stuff, that content hasn't been lost like the arena. Just the method of experiencing it has been lost.
You don't hear Flameheart shouting his lines at you. That stuff is gone.
But that's just more an aesthetic thing. The actual fundamentals are still there. It's just you have to be level 50 at least.
It's level 75 to get the top tier.
Okay,
I'm not sure,
but it's still accessible. You just can't experience them naturally in game anymore.
But yeah, so this is cool. Right away when they said we're taking these out, that immediately excited me more than any kind of loss. I didn't feel like we're losing something. I feel like we're opened up possibilities because, like you said, as long as that world event was there, it felt like Flameheart's story can't have an ending. It can't really progress to a point where he gets, maybe he'll get a body someday because right now he's just a ghost head.
Right.
But he can't have a body if he's stuck being a ghost head. And we can't, defeat him and defeat his forces if he is still just a ghost head. So you would hope that every time they build up a story, you're building up to eventually an ending. And now, and who knows how long it will take to you get to that ending, maybe years, but you want that ending to happen. You know what I mean? You want it to build up to a point where we can actually defeat Flameheart. And now it feels like we're taking a step in that direction. He's actually actively furthering his plans in the Sea of Thieves and his advance.
It kind of sort of rendered Flameheart inert. I didn't feel there was any threat to him. I wasn't intrigued by him anymore. Just kind of annoying, honestly, when he became the world event and just stayed at the world event. And now I can be invested in what happens with Flameheart because I feel like there is a narrative being propelled there. So you could see the end of Flameheart entirely in Sea of Thieves, which is exciting. So, yeah.
Yeah, so Belle sends us on a quest. We go out to explore other Shrouded Islands, specifically Shipwreck Bay, and using the Flame of Souls, which is the flame that you can get from the Sea of the Damned that lets you basically re-experience ghostly memories, kind of watch replays of events that have happened. We go around lighting these beacons and watching these little vignettes of story, and then we fight a battle with some phantoms, including a Soul Flame captain, which is interesting because that was one of those silly Pirate Emporium cosmetics that didn't really have any lore behind it.
Right.
And now they've actually said, no, that is a character in the lore. That's a type of boss in the lore that you can encounter.
Which might mean we'll see the Jackal-Looter at some point, or the Krampus type skellies.
The Ruby Splashtail Man.
Yeah.
That would be fun. But so it's a pretty simple little quest. You go and light beacons and fight phantoms. You defeat a boss. They do this cool moment when you're in the boss fight where they spawn in these ghostly cannons that weren't there before, and then you can use the cannons against the enemy waves.
Oh yeah, and ghost barrels. Now I know what you're thinking.
And ghost barrels. You think, snap!
Yeah, you think they're like the ghost barrels from Donkey Kong Country 3. No, they're just ghost barrels that are ghostly. They're not like...
Well, these are not barrels that are possessed by a spirit. These are barrels that are manifested by the memory of spirits.
Right. So they're
memories of barrels.
Right. So memories of barrels, yeah. Oh, the ghost I could make with my memories of barrels.
Memories of Barrels just sounds like a very middling Paul McCartney solo album. From the 90s or something.
Yeah, it's after Flaming Pie, but before his classical album Standing Stone.
So it's a fun little fight. There's not a whole lot to the story here. There is a bit of a plot twist in there where the Servant of the Flame, who is kind of running the Reaper's Bones trading company, is revealed to be Flameheart Jr.
Flameheart Jr. from the Tales from the Sea of Thieves book.
So that was really, if you're invested in the lore, that's a big kind of hanging plot thread for a long time. The book made mention that there's a Flameheart Jr. who also turns into a skeleton, and there was a Flameheart Sr. And so for a long time, when Flameheart came into the game, it wasn't exactly clear, is this Flameheart Sr. or is this Flameheart Jr.? Mm-hmm. And then it was revealed, yes, it's Senior. It has been Senior the whole time. But then that just begs the question, where's Junior? Like, where's Donkey Kong Jr.? As the Donkey Kong fans keep asking. The Nintendo Donkey Kong fans, not the rare Donkey Kong fans.
Because we know.
Because we know what's going on. But yeah, so yeah, Flameheart Jr.'s been here actually for some time as this kind of reconstructed, disembodied, I don't know really what you call these constructs that are the Reaper's Bones Tinker Toy people or whatever.
Well, we don't even really know what's going on with him because he's like covered from head to toe, you know?
Yeah, but he speaks with two voices out of his mouth. You know what I mean? Like two overlapping kind of. Anyway,
like one of those politicians on Capitol Hill.
Holy moly! I don't want to do any politics right now, Hyle. I'm still in the seasonal effective thing.
I didn't mean to get too controversial there, you know.
Yeah, come on, Hyle. We just lost a viewer. But yeah, we got they moved the story forward a little bit. They let us do a fun little battle with some phantoms. It was nothing too consequential, but really the big part of it was just seeing Golden Sands Outpost in, destruction, seeing the aftermath, and then not knowing, where's it going to go next. It's seeding a story that is yet to finish.
By the way, Golden Sands Outpost is still destroyed. We passed the adventure now, and it's still in ruins.
That is true. And so we're hopefully going to get some more development on that throughout Season 6. These adventures are going to happen every month. They also said they're going to do mysteries every season, which are more... I guess we'll talk about that when we do a Season 6 wrap-up, because we don't have one of those yet. But, yeah, I'm excited about it. I actually did go through a little low period throughout this season where I was feeling... not as invested in blogging about Sea of Thieves, not as invested in playing Sea of Thieves. And then the stuff that they did at the end of Season 5 and going into Season 6 really brought me back in. Just when I think I'm out, they bring me screaming back in. And I'm as excited as ever for where it's going.
I think I was going through the low period too during the 3 weeks where I really couldn't play the game. And I think having the adventures and I think having the narrative finally be driven forward in a continually propulsive way, rather than a stop-start kind of method. And then your mind focuses more on the grind of commendations, the grind of I've got to have all of these numbers up to their highest. I've got to have every check mark checked. That becomes the game for you. And that's not the game. And I think this actually will help soothe the loss of the arena and the FOMO that goes on with, losing those commendations and everything, that comes with that. I think having just the story of Sea of Thieves finally being told in a consistent, timely manner and getting to experience that with my friends will really help get me over that hump and in a new way of thinking about the game. So I am also very excited.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Now
I think that's really all I have to say about that, except what were you about to say?
We have a call. We actually have a call.
We
have a call about Sea of Thieves, yeah. So
we have a call?
Now, Jeff, I told you, I was like, hey, we have a call, and you were like, neat. I think that those were your words. And I wonder if you're still going to think it's neat after we play it.
Okay.
All right.
Hey, this is Jeff's friend, G-Mentor. So a while back, me and Jeff were talking about how much we enjoy seeing animals kiss and shit. So I was wondering, do you think that would be a valuable update for Sea of Thieves? Because we like when animals are realistic. And for the next season, do you think that could be a good way to move forward and to focus on the animals so that we can see them pissing and shitting? Thank you.
Yeah, so G-Man and I, that's G-Man, sir. That's my friend, G-Man. First of all, thank you for the call.
You notice I didn't claim G-Man as my friend, too. I've been very defensive and argumentative about that the entire episode.
You don't get him.
I'm letting you claim G-Man.
So G-Man, sir, our friend of the show, friend of DK Vine. We were talking about how, we love animals pissing and shitting. I'm going to run with the bit and say that happened. Sure. And should it be an update? I don't know. I don't know if that could be a whole update, because you probably, Hyle, you and I have talked about being able to milk the animals.
Yeah. No, that's my dream. Yeah.
Yeah, milking the animals. So I think that if you add in milk, now we have an update. Now we have a season, because just animals pissing and shitting, that's not a whole update. People are going to complain there's not enough content in that.
Yeah.
There's not enough content.
But, if you actually could milk them, you could then sell the milk. You could set up little stands alongside the islands, pig milk,
I just think it would give a reason for people to do the Merchant Alliance voyages again. If when you were catching the animals, if they were pissing and shitting, and then maybe you slip on it and you accidentally step on a mud pie that they dropped on your deck of your ship, and you step on it and then you slide forward 6 feet, like you're sliding through a slippery, and then you fall down the stairs. Little slapstick moment,
Yeah, and driving.
They love their slapstick.
Drive engagement with the perverts. That's what we've been saying. This. Yes.
Yeah. And then that just, we're not going to make the slurping noise. I did it anyway, but yeah, I think that milking, pissing, and shitting, it's one of those things. I think with the team there, it's a when, not an if. It's kind of, when does this make sense? They've got other things, and they will get around to it. So thank you for the call.
This has been a File 2 production.
Que rico.